Hi and welcome. I'm Kim Skilton from What Matters Marketing, and today we've got a session with LinkedIn expert Kylie Chown. Hi Kylie.
Hi Kim, thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I was absolutely delighted that you were available and could join me. I'm very fortunate to know Kylie from a few years ago now. She was able to join us at a conference I was helping to organise, a travel conference, a national conference we held on the Gold Coast at the at Sanctuary Cove. So it was a pretty nice weekend, wasn't it?
Yes, it was beautiful. Thank you so much for having me then, and I guess having me now.
Oh, of course. No, thank you. So at the time, I was looking for somebody that would really be able to share in, I guess, simplistic, relatable terms to an audience how best to use LinkedIn. And Kylie just was very able to provide it in layman's terms, I guess, as how best that a small business owner or any business owner can really take advantage of LinkedIn, because one of the big questions is LinkedIn for me? So we were able to dive in deep for that conference audience, and I guess that's why I've asked Kylie to come back to us today and share what I guess where LinkedIn is at today and how best we can have LinkedIn work for our businesses. So I think as much as I've definitely seen an increase in interest in LinkedIn, I guess there's still quite a lot of mystery around it since I saw you last present at that conference. And I think the two really big questions I quite often hear are, is it right for my business? And if it is, how do I go about using it to deliver for the needs of my business? So whether that's brand awareness or lead generation, recruitment, I guess you'll probably expand on all the different ways that we can use LinkedIn, but they seem to be the two most pressing questions that I get asked. So I thought that's probably a good place to start, and I thought, well, you would definitely be able to answer those. But I think you've also come up with essentially 6 critical questions that you tend to find you get asked consistently about the value of LinkedIn and how you can apply it to your business. Was that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And those 2 questions that you've spoken about initially are definitely ones that I get a lot. Is LinkedIn right for my business? If so, then how can I use it? And there's, I guess, 4 other questions that I do come across a lot. Is exactly that kind of, how can you use it as a marketing tool? Should I use my company page or my personal page? So, what are the differences there, and which platform should I be using? How to get the most out of it for free. So, do I need to do ads? Do I need to have a paid profile? Can I really kind of use it for free? And also how you can use it specifically around lead generation, so business development and inquiry and things like that. But I will say that, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that LinkedIn is right for absolutely every business. So I think that's a really great question to start with.
Yeah. Let's do this. All right, so let's start with that big one. Why LinkedIn? Yeah. What is all the fuss about?
Yeah. Okay. So why LinkedIn? There's a few reasons that I like LinkedIn, and I will. I think absolutely clear. I don't think it's the most ideal platform for absolutely every business, and we'll talk a little while about what businesses I find work best. But essentially, LinkedIn is, I think, a key part of that concept of digital first. So when somebody Google searches your name or your business name, because of the size of LinkedIn, because it's got a lot of backlinks and activity and all those things that Google likes, it does rank highly in the Google search results. So one of the reasons is that Google search results, and people can find your profile that way. The second reason I like LinkedIn is the intention that people go with. So I absolutely think that Facebook is an amazing social media platform, but I do also think that people go to LinkedIn with a bit of a different intention. So they're showing up on LinkedIn with a bit of a different mindset. They're more in a business work frame than maybe some of the other platforms.
Yeah, so you're saying there that Facebook might be a bit more social, whereas LinkedIn, you are there's a purpose. You might be going in to catch up on some industry news, or perhaps even look at some jobs, find out what others might be doing in their specific roles and or industries or categories. So yeah, I can see what you mean. There's a bit more intention behind it.
Yeah, and I think there's more of a like work. When I say work, like even from a business perspective, there's that more kind of work mode intention to going there.
Yes.
And yeah, it's kind of I think it's the intention that people go with is what makes it a bit different from the other platforms.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned it's your first digital impression, and
Yeah.
I do, that really resonates with me, because I think when I Google myself, it is either, I think it might be my LinkedIn profile that comes
Yeah.
up first. So for those watching who don't know, websites have a domain authority, and these big sites like LinkedIn and your Facebooks and Instagrams, etc., they have a very high domain authority. So if they're picking up your profile, then it's giving you a presence that you may not be able to get through your own website, purely because you just don't have the traffic and the pages and the ranking that you would need to be able to compete with LinkedIn. So for me, that in itself is a reason to have at least a personal profile on LinkedIn, because whether you have your own consultancy business like me, or you're a bigger business, if someone meets you somewhere, whether it's at a social barbecue or a networking night, if they remember your name, they can try and find you on LinkedIn, or if they Google you, you may be found through LinkedIn, just purely from that domain authority, I guess. So yeah, that's really powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think even I know myself, like if I'm looking for a contractor or a supplier, like literally one of the things I do is jump on and put their name or their company name into Google just to see what comes up. And I've had people say, well, my clients aren't on LinkedIn. I'm like, but I think there are a lot of people who do that kind of a little bit of due diligence, I guess, and search people, and they just want to be, even if you're getting a lot of referral-based clients, if somebody is a referral, they might be Googling as well. Like if you said to me, oh, check out this person, they're awesome, I'll be like, awesome, thanks, Kim. I'll go and look up that person. So, yeah, absolutely.
I know this is a little bit terrible, but I'm going to be very honest here. I think also who your connections are on LinkedIn can influence what people think of you as well. So I do think, you want to be mindful of who you're connecting with and who that network is that that's going to help spread your wings, but possibly also impress others that will think, oh, well, that they're really well connected. They've managed to, throughout their career, whether, you've been working a long time or you've just started out, you're very conscious of making meaningful connections with those people that you've either worked directly with or starting to create some sort of relationship with. And it certainly makes it easier in the future. I know I've used it a lot. If I'm looking for a particular person at a company, I might look for the company first, and then I'll scan and see if I know anybody. And I might not know them directly, but I'll have connections that know them, so I can go in that way. And I think that is a really important, for me in the kind of work I do, I know that's been really valuable for me.
Absolutely, because it's a warm introduction, do you know what I mean? And it's that I think it all comes back to like that trust, and I still think trust and word of mouth marketing and referrals is really key, and that's essentially what you're doing, but you're doing it online. So it's someone in that company saying, hey, I think it's worth you talking to Kim. So that's got absolutely massive weight as opposed to you reaching out to them directly.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah. So that's why LinkedIn sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, sold. In terms of businesses that should think to use LinkedIn, you were pretty honest right from the get-go that perhaps not every business is right. So do you want to give us your thoughts on where you see what types of business you see would be able to really take advantage of that particular platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I will say is I kind of think these days I think early in social media, like there was this move to be on absolutely every channel and be like smashing out absolutely every channel. And I think we've kind of stepped away from that. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'll kind of overlay with it. So if I'm talking to someone, part of it is looking at is LinkedIn right for them and their business? So obviously we need to look at, I guess, a couple of things. We need to look at where your audience is. So where your audience hangs out and what platforms they're on. So if your audience is a user of LinkedIn, that's an indicator that it's worth looking at. We also have to think about the type of content you want to be sharing because, there's particular content that suits LinkedIn better than other platforms. So, if you're looking at going down maybe that thought leadership piece and having articles and content, LinkedIn might be like a consideration as opposed to if you have a lot of beautiful images that might suit Instagram as a platform better, just as an example. So we need to first of all look at where the audience is, what type of content that you've got, and then that's going to help determine if LinkedIn is right for you. In relation to specific industries, it's really interesting. Traditionally, I've worked with a lot of more service-based businesses, so anyone in professional services, and these are businesses who generally provide a element of advice in what they do, and it's usually things, so people like accountants, financial advisors, mortgage brokers and things like that. So that's business coaches, a very traditional kind of LinkedIn space, I guess, so that they kind of tend to use LinkedIn. More recently, I've seen a bit of a shift, which is kind of interesting, and it makes it a bit more exciting. And specifically, even if I think about the clients that we see coming through, a lot more of those kind of trade and technical services.
Yeah, cool.
Now, when I say trade services, I will kind of overlay that with it's a trade service that's looking to get into maybe a commercial or a corporate market. So, if it was an electrician looking to do residential domestic, then no. But if it was an electrician saying they want to get into, hotels or facility management or servicing corporate, then that could be worth looking at as well.
Yeah.
And then the other area is a lot of kind of people who go for government money and tenders, which sounds a bit kind of off to the side. But it's that validation. They're using their LinkedIn profiles as part of the concept of social proof to get their grants and things like that. Yeah. So I'd say from an industry perspective, we're looking at kind of professional services, trade services with the overlay that we're looking commercial corporate and not-for-profits or anyone who's looking for funding. Yeah. And then the whole overlay on that is it's generally a business that is selling a higher value, lower volume product.
That's
a higher value. I always get that one. Yeah. Higher value, lower volume. So it's if someone said to me, I need to sell 500 ebooks for 99 cents, probably LinkedIn is not going to be the best platform for them. But if they're looking for, if they've got a higher value, so they're higher either the initial value of their service or their lifetime customer value is higher, but it's lower. Do you know what I mean? So they don't necessarily need hundreds of people. Yeah. Then I think LinkedIn's a better platform. Yeah. If you're looking for hundreds of people, then I think LinkedIn you're very much then looking at a paid ad spend, and then I think you need to be comparing. Is that the best use of that money a little bit further before you commit to it.
Yeah, and I think when we get to the question on paid versus free, I haven't actually done paid for a little while, but I've got a couple of comments, so we'll hold that and talk about it under that specific question. Yeah. But I think it is turning into an interesting place where I think creatively you might be able to have some cut through for what you would see as a non-traditional LinkedIn type business. Yeah. But maybe let's park that and we'll bring it up in the page.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah. See how fun and creative we can be. Yeah. So that was great covering the types of businesses. So the next question, so this is question number 3. What can you expect from LinkedIn as a marketing tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really good question. And I think that's something that people need to clarify, whether they're new to LinkedIn or whether they're looking to implement strategies. We really need to be clear on what their expectations are. So again, I think first of all, LinkedIn, at the end of the day, is a social platform. So I think you will get in. I'll tell you a little bit. I'm going to go off track and just tell you a little story. So I had this guy, and he was on a webinar, and he listened, and he stayed all the way to the end. And he said all the way to the end to tell me that LinkedIn doesn't work for him and he doesn't like it. And I'm like, awesome, thanks. And I'm like, okay, cool. So what sort of things are you doing? And he's like, well, I last logged in, I think it was 2017. And I was like, okay, so I think that might be part of the issue. So I think LinkedIn is definitely a platform that, and I think all social media is in this category is you're going to get out what you put in. So that would be the first thing that I'd say is that you've got to show up and you've got to be engaged. So what can people expect? So I think you can expect to develop your brand, both as a personal brand and a business brand. You can position yourself, you can expect to position yourself as a thought expert in the particular area of expertise that you have. So that's where our professional services tend to work well, because they've got a lot of that thought leadership content. And then you can develop networks and relationships and reach out and connect and engage. So I've purposely left off actual lead generation as a specific item, because I think that comes as a result of all those activities. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So if we've got an awesome profile, if we're putting out great content, if we're reaching out and connecting and engaging and having really great conversations, then lead generation comes off that. But when I'm asked that question, I purposely leave it off, because it's not, just to make clear, the expectation is you're not going to set up an account. Like, you might get a couple of inquiries, but you're not going to get a flood of inquiries without doing those things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Those other three things lead to the leads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just setting up an account and thinking that people, and I mean, randomly people might come across your profile and reach out to you. But if you really want to have a structure around it, you need to get to the point where you know, okay, my profile's set up this way. If I do this much activity, then based on historic data, I can expect X amount of inquiries, and then you can either ramp that up or ramp it down depending on where you're at.
Yeah, great. Okay, so just to recap on that one, what you can expect from LinkedIn as a marketing tool, it's essentially, yes, you can develop and create brand awareness, I guess, and just keep developing your brand out in that particular marketplace. Position yourself as either a thought leader or an expert in the industry or field or in which you're operating. And the third thing there was to develop networks and relationships, which is probably touches on what I was sort of mentioning earlier about you like and follow people, they do the same to you, and then it has aided me so much in my work life when I've needed certain skill sets or referrals of people. I can reach out to my network and be able to get that, like you mentioned before, that warm introduction, which is more likely, particularly the more senior someone is as well. It's hard; they get harder and harder to contact. So if you can have a mutual contact who can do that warm introduction for you, then you've got no gatekeeper, and you're able to get that direct contact with that person. So I think that's a very powerful third element or benefit as a marketing tool.
Absolutely. Like, I have a client. And I suggested to them that they go and follow all their clients. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, and then when their clients post content, like it, and I would overlay that as well. Like, I would definitely not suggest you like stuff for visibility. You do actually have to feel like you like it. I think you still have to be authentic. So I was saying to her, if you see something and you like it. And she was like, and then I was talking to her earlier this week, and she was like, oh my gosh, like, they're liking my stuff back. And it's awesome, because when they're liking her stuff back, it's showing up in their newsfeed and they're connected to people like them. And I was like, yeah, so I wouldn't like something with the expectation of getting likes back, but I think there is that kind of, oh, you like my stuff, and then when I see your stuff, if I like it, I'll feel more engaged. And that's kind of getting out what you put in as well.
Yeah, and there's always the silent, what will I call it? The silent profiling, and by that I mean, I know I'll put content out on various channels, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I might not get as much engagement as I would have liked, and then I'll run into somebody and they'll say, oh, I've been loving your content. And I feel like saying, well, can you bloody tell me that? Because, you have these silent supporters.
No, that's so true. Yeah, I had I did a group today, and I had shared exactly the same story. And I was at an event, and this person came up, and they were literally talking to me like they knew, like they had that familiar, do you know what I mean? I was like, you're talking to me like you know me.
Yeah.
And then I said to them, I'm really sorry, I just can't place where I've met you. And they're like, oh, no, we haven't met. I've just read your stuff. So it was like, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. They've got that connection just from the content. So absolutely. I think I think there are content consumers, and I think there's a lot more of them than what we think.
Yes, yes, I know. And we've got to remember that. So when we're disheartened sometimes about the responses we might get from the various things that we share on socials, that it is still being seen. Even though there may not be as much interaction as you would like, there's still people consuming it, enjoying it, and seeing value in it. Just for some reason, they're not, giving you a like or something.
Yeah, and it can be challenging in some industries as well. So when I work with like coaches or career coaches and things like that, if I think about a career coach, and I'm thinking of one in particular, puts out amazing content, but doesn't get engagement. And I said to them, well, really, your ideal target is people who are working, looking for another job. So they're probably not going to engage with your content on LinkedIn. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because then their boss will see that potentially their boss might see that they're engaging with someone who's promoting job search strategy or interview skills and things like that. So, it's sometimes it's definitely not a reflection of the content. It's where that audience is as well.
Yes, and we do. We have to still search for new career paths or jobs silently.
Yes.
So, yes, that makes a lot of sense. So that's great. Thank you. Now, the next question we have is, should we use a company page, a personal page, or both? What would be your recommendation?
This is a good question. Yeah, about if you'd asked me like 6 to 8 months ago, I'd say if you're a business who's a consultant coach or working under your brand, I would have said, don't worry too much about your business page. But LinkedIn has changed a lot of the data and the analytics around company pages. So at the moment, I think it's absolutely worth considering, at least for a coach, consultant, advisor, someone working as themselves, I would absolutely consider company pages, because you've got your content here and you've got your audience here, and your company pages are just another way to get your content in front of those people. So it's just another channel. LinkedIn has changed the metrics on it. So if you jump onto your company page, if you go up into analytics, you can see it gives you data on click-through rates, on posts. It shares who your followers are and things like that. So you're getting a lot of audience data there that you can use to create your content. The other thing is too, from an advertising perspective, you can advertise to your company page followers. You can't advertise to your connections. So again, if you so then you could advertise. So remember, so if we think about that kind of, if you think about that kind of buying funnel, we've got consideration, awareness, decision. We can do decision-driven ads at that point in time because they're a warmer audience, right?
Yes.
The other thing about company pages is they tend to work well because a lot of people now have multiple interests and things like that. So, or multiple businesses. So, there's a lady who I'm thinking of at the moment, runs a conference, but then she's also got a business. So she's got a company page for her conference, and then if someone connects with her, that's kind of that she feels is a better fit for that, she'll say, hey, thanks so much for the connecting. By the way, I share a lot of conference type content on my company page if you'd like to follow. So I think when we're kind of moving into having different interests, they work there as well. If you've got a company and a team, I reckon that's when company pages are amazing. LinkedIn favors peer-to-peer content. Absolutely. So and I've got a whole lot of data around it, but essentially posting through the company page and then having the individuals post out to their individual networks is really powerful as well. At the end of the day, though, like I said, I think it's absolutely worth considering a company page. If you are just starting out, or if you're new to LinkedIn, or you're going, okay, now you're just getting way too much and you're being really overwhelming, I would come back to your personal profile first, because people want to connect with you as the person. Do you know what I mean? And people are looking for you as the person. So I think, yes, they're important, but if we're looking at prioritization, I would prioritize a personal profile and then bring in the company pages underneath it.
Yeah. Well, I think that when you talk about the multiple business things, I'm a prime example of that. So I have What Matters Marketing, and I have a company page for that. But then I also do a couple of days a week with a travel company where I'm literally an employee. I'm not even a contractor, so I'm an employee. So when you look at my position, I am a director of my company. I've just resigned from a board, so I was a board member as well, and then GM product and marketing for this company. So I do have multiple roles, and I need to be able to differentiate when I'm talking about my business, What Matters Marketing. I'm putting that out under my company page, and then I can share that then through my personal LinkedIn page. And I do that for this other leisure business I work for as well. I share their content out. So that's how I've tended to manage it so far. So I'm glad. Sounds like I might be on the right track.
Sounds like you're on the perfect track.
Yay! That's great.
Gold star.
Yeah, yay! Okay, good. So we're on to, what's this? I think we're up to question number 5. And this is
already.
I know.
Whizzing by.
Yeah, it does. Well, I think it's good to keep it simple too. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. We've just basically got to understand what we expect from the platform. Is our audience there? And then understanding these options for us. So what can I expect for it to do for me? The question is, how do I best use it to profile my business for free?
Okay, excellent. So I think what I would start with that is there is a range of paid products. So you can have a free account, which is that's kind of the starting point. You can have a premium account. There's Sales Navigator, which is another product, and you've got Ads, which is another product, and you've got Recruiter, which is another product. So I think when we're starting out, absolutely, I do not think that there is any reason to go straight into a paid product, because a paid product will give you more of what you've already got, right? So, for example, the paid premium product, which is the next one up from the free account, it lets you know who's viewed your profile more. But again, is that worth it? It lets you connect with more people. Now, what I will say is I'm actually on a premium product. Or I use LinkedIn Premium, which is the paid product, and it's just because of the amount of use that I have. So I use it personally and then also for clients as well. But like I said, essentially starting out, I think absolutely you can do it for free. And then I think there is a cost associated, obviously, with your time and effort and resources. So the platform is free, but I think there is obviously still a cost center there. But essentially what you can expect is, I think you can expect to build out your profile. So again, build that profile so that then when people are finding you, it's very on point and it's very talking to them. Developing out that company page, using it as a channel for content. So putting out that content in front of your ideal audience and identifying those people who you want to connect with and develop relationships and reach out and connect and engage with. So I think the fundamental principles that I talk about are profile content and connections. You can do all of that on the free account, and it's just you'll get to a point where you want to do more. So LinkedIn will tell you, they'll go, oh, you've reached your connection limit for the month. Do you know what I mean? So
so if that's happening a lot, then you should be considering the premium.
So they'll give you a free month for free. So generally what I'll say to people is just try it out, but keep some data and keep some measurement. So then at the end of the day, as you know, marketing, it just comes down to numbers, really. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we can look at what's been the change in result, how much that's cost you, and then you decide if that's right for your business. You can do the month trial for free, but you do need to jump in and take the credit card details out before the end of the month, or it's automated. I've had so many, but you know what? I'll just side note. I've always gone, no, they won't refund it. But I literally had a lady the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I bet they won't refund it. And she's like, I shouldn't say this, but she's like, they actually did. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And she's like, yeah, it was one day after. But I wouldn't recommend that's a strategy. I recommend that you take your credit card out.
Diarise to take it out before that date rolls over.
A couple of days, because 99.9% of people haven't, once they take it, it's difficult to get it back. So,
and when you're on the premium, can you just pull cancel at any time? It's not a 12-month commitment or anything?
Well, so there is 2 options. So you can do the an annual subscription, or you can do month to month. And again, the variance in the cost isn't great. So again, if you're just starting out, I'd just do month to month, just so that you can actually get a bit more data and information, and then decide what you want to do.
So can I just clarify too on the data, the analytics reporting, is that only available under premium for both? Well, you can't get it under a personal page anyway, can you?
No. So on the company page, you can get that data and analytics on the free account, but you need to be an administrator of your company page.
Okay. We're on to our last question, which is
Awesome.
how to use LinkedIn for lead generation, whether it is free or paid.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So I guess it's, again, I kind of, from a paid perspective, you absolutely have got the LinkedIn ads as a lead generation tool. I would have a strategy behind it. Do you know what I mean? So you don't want to go oh, I'm going to do a LinkedIn ad. You really want to be thinking about what's the strategy behind it from a lead gen perspective. So, is it inquiry? Is it an ad to consultation? Whatever that is. We touched on really briefly the company page following. So is it an ad to your company page followings with an offer at that decision-making stage of the buying process? So that would be something to look at from a paid ads perspective. From a free account, again, it's just having that profile coming up in the searches, really positioned and talking to your audience from how you can help them. Having a call to action in the about section. Like I read amazing profiles and I'm like I want to talk to you, and yes, I can connect with you, but then that's a lot of steps. Do you know what I mean? So could even be, and what personal information you share is obviously based on your personal comfort level. But I've had on mine. Feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at, and I've just got like a contact at email there. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not sharing my phone number, but some people do, which is fine. I just would prefer email. But yeah, so you can then so then just think if your ideal client landed on your profile, and and if it's positioned really well, and then it's got that call to action, then people will actually kind of reach out to you, and then basically you're amplifying that through your content. So creating content that has a call to action, and then creating content through LinkedIn that again maps that buying cycle, so that awareness, consideration, and decision. So you could actually do promotional content through your content schedule, but you want to reflect that upside down triangle. So you want to be doing this much of it. Yeah, I see people who are doing this much of it, and that's when it becomes salesy and overwhelming. And then reaching out and connecting and engaging with your ideal audience as well.
Yeah. Well, while you mention that, let's just talk a little bit about LinkedIn etiquette, because I've had quite a few people connect with me, and rightly or wrongly, I've accepted, only to then literally within minutes get a message. Hey, saw your profile, think we could work well together, we do this, da. And to be quite frank, I find it really quite annoying and very salesy, and it does put me off, and I'm a marketer, I should be thick-skinned and be able to suck that up quite well, but it just pisses me off that someone within seconds is onto me about trying to create that working relationship, and then I think, well, hang on, it is a B2B platform, and of course they're not linking with me to have a cup of tea or a cocktail. But I do, what would be your recommendation around, because I can see how that could really work, but is there a good way to do it and a not so good way to do it?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little story. So I did, I met someone at an event, and he was like, I want to show you something, and I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, I've written my connection request, and it was long. It was like 3 pages long. It was beautifully written. It was double spaced. It was justified. It was like, so my writer in me goes, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. But I said to him, like, what? So think of it. So I think, and he said it before, like, it's actually quite simple. Do you know what I mean? And I think sometimes it appears more complicated than what it is. And I literally brought him back to say, okay, you're at a networking event and you meet someone, and what do you say to them? Do you know what I mean? Like, hi, how are you? And you ask them a question. So let's just try and replicate that online. Do you know what I mean? So if I was going to reach out to someone who I didn't know, I might go, hey, Peter, And I would word it better than this, but just to give you context, hey Peter, came across your profile on LinkedIn. Would you like to connect? And just ask the question. Do you know what I mean? And then when he connects, so what we want to do is look at getting into a conversation with people. And I've literally got, I had a group earlier today, and I was saying to them, I've got a social experiment on my phone at the moment, which is I've accepted a connection request from someone who I have got no prior relationship with. And so far today, I've gotten 8 messages to which I have not replied to any of them. And I'm like, I just want to say, this is going to go. And I'm very mindful that I don't want to be negative to other people's strategies. Do you know what I mean? But I'm like, dude, it's 8 messages and I haven't replied to any of them. Do you know what I mean? So where does, what, I'm just really interested. And I guess I kind of get interested in the thinking behind it.
Yes.
Where do you...
Is it the squeaky door approach?
Yeah, if I just keep poking you're going to say something to me. And I guess that I do see people talk about it being a numbers game again. Do you know what I mean? So again, everyone's approach is different. And, there are people who will talk about, well, it's a numbers game. If you do that to enough people are going to accept. But then I go back to, I'd rather people have a smaller network. And if I look at my network, to be honest, if I look at my network in comparison to other LinkedIn people, it's actually quite small. Do you know what I mean? Because there are other people who go to that kind of volume. I kind of think it's more important to have that kind of quality over quantity. And so in saying that, I'm reaching out to people and connecting with them quite purposefully.
Yes.
And the short answer is you really have to customize the message, which is what which is what some people, when they're automating the messages, that's what you're getting is an automated message, which isn't customized. And I did have it today. Someone's like, well, can we automate this? And I was like, well, technically you can, but what's your response when you get an automated message? Do you know what I mean? How's that land? And it's exactly what you said. He's like, oh no, they really annoy me. And I'm like, well, do you want to be the annoying person?
Yeah. So I think top tip coming out of that is basically write it how you would say it if you were at a face-to-face networking event. Yeah,
have the conversations, just duplicate. And I think we can just look at how we duplicate in person online. And obviously there's adjustments and there's little things that you can't do. But think about, would I say this in person if I met someone? Would I read them my 2-page script? If not, don't do it on LinkedIn or any platform.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I do think, obviously it must work for some people, just slamming people with messages. But I guess, like you mentioned, it comes back to who you are and how you operate. And if you're comfortable being that person, then I guess, go for it. But a lot of people, it will rub them up the wrong way, and it may not necessarily... It'll mean you'll have to do the volume versus the quality, because you're doing numbers versus spending time nurturing a relationship to get the work or the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And going back to what you said initially, is that if you then want to leverage those relationships that you've got for an introduction, if you've messaged that person 8 times, they're probably not going to facilitate an introduction for you.
No, I don't think so.
Not likely.
No, I agree. Well, that's been really informative, and I hope that the people watching this are getting a lot out of it as well. And if I just go back to that original, partway through, where this is really quite a simple channel to work. You just have to understand what your purpose is, what you're trying to achieve out of it. I love that we've discussed both company versus personal pages, and then, there really is no right or wrong way. It really comes down to where you are in your business evolution, what kind of business you actually operate. So if you are more of an individual, then maybe you just start with your personal page and you can look to grow to a company page. If you are a company with employees, it's probably a great idea to get that happening and build out your content strategy, which team members can then share. And then what I didn't say around the paid stuff is just, I guess, in comparison, when I have run LinkedIn before, it was more like, say, a $5 cost per click per click versus say on Facebook it might be well, at the moment it's super cheap on Facebook. It's like 30 cents or something. It's
wow,
not.
that's awesome.
Yeah, well, this is I'm talking specifically travel industry at the moment. So other industries, I mean that industry is hurting significantly. There's not a lot of competition advertising.
Yeah, okay.
So it's brought the ad spend or ad rates down. But that's a huge difference. I think even if you go back pre-COVID times in travel, we might have been paying a couple of dollars, if that. Or $1.20 cost per click.
Yeah.
So when you say look at LinkedIn's 5 times as much, that then comes back to your statement around the higher ticket items. That if you are selling $1,000 product or service versus $100, if you're doing $100, $50, you're probably going to see more value in or return on ad spend in say Facebook, whereas if you are selling a higher ticket item, your margins might still be percentage-wise the same, but in raw numbers it's a lot higher. You can afford to pay the $5 per click because you know that you've got a higher cost per acquisition budget. So and you've got more chance of getting the quality customer you need in LinkedIn than you have in Facebook. And I guess for people interested in that advertising side of it, you really do need to just test and see what works. But it's having that strategy set across those various social media channels to understand what you need to achieve and establishing those metrics so you can work out cost per click, cost per lead, and then cost per conversion. So once you get a sale, and compare it against the different channels to then determine, LinkedIn's for me, or no, Facebook's for me, Instagram's for me, or whatever it might be. Google AdWords is another one.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good advice around thinking about your actual value of your product.
Yeah.
And do I need 1,000 customers a month, or do I need 10,000, or do I need 10? And that will also drive that strategy for you and let give you some indication of what you should be doing. Now, thank you very, very much. It's been amazing. Where can people find you or find out more about you?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for asking. So you might be surprised to hear this, but probably the best way to find me would be through my LinkedIn profile. So I do share a lot of, surprise, right? I do share a lot of LinkedIn relevant content there as well. So you can, look up on LinkedIn, feel free to reach out and connect. And maybe just put a note that you were at the session.
Yes.
If you do, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So I know we've kind of gone a high level because we've got lots of different audience, or people, from an audience perspective. So happy to give individual. If you have individual questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to see if I can help. But I would like to say thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome to chat to you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Carly. It's always a delight, and you always amaze me with how you get into the crux of it, but still at a very understandable level, so that us more simple folk can just understand how best to apply this particular tool to our businesses. So thank you so much for your time, and just look up your name on LinkedIn and we'll find
that'd be perfect.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you, Kylie. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Bye now.